Hey, how's it going, guys? Matt here from the Toasty Bros. So you're probably wondering one of two things. Why am I releasing a Ryzen 3000 series video the day after the NDA lifted? And two, well, we're kind of in a new office. This is probably going to be the first video that's on the channel of our new office space. There'll be more to come on that later if you're a follower of the channel and you're interested in something like that. But today, with special thanks to our friends over at Computer Upgrade King, I have a full system here rocking a Ryzen 7 3700X. And what we're going to be doing today is talking about B450 support. I'm recording this video before the NDA launch, and I'm starting to believe that the main reviewers are going to be focusing on things like X570 motherboards, the motherboards that are designed for the 3000 series. But I really wanted to dive into the B450 platform, which is the second generation motherboards that are supported for 3000 series. Is it a good idea for you to consider B450 with a Ryzen 7 3700X? Well, how about we go ahead and talk about that? But first, a word from today's sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Toasty Deals, a Twitter account made by, well, us, to deliver you PC hardware and tech deals every day located right in your Twitter feed. Check the link down below and drop a follow, and also mention us on Twitter telling us what kind of deals you are looking for, and we will do our best to try to make it happen. So check out Toasty Deals today, link in the description down below.
Now, I had to give a big thanks to our friends over at Computer Upgrade King once again. They sent us a ton of stuff for Ryzen 3000 series. They sent us this system with the Ryzen 7 3700X, and I'll talk more about this system later specifically and some of its pros and cons, and if you should consider purchasing a system like this from a system builder like Computer Upgrade King. And they also sent us some spare parts. They sent a Ryzen 5 3400G, a Ryzen 5 3600, and a Ryzen 3 3200G, which all those processors will be tested in a video on this channel, so stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, because there's going to be a lot of interesting Ryzen 3000 series coverage coming from our perspective, which is mainly focused around the budget side of tech. Now let's talk about this system real quick. This thing is inside the Continuum case from Computer Upgrade King, which we actually have a full build coming to the channel soon, so stay tuned for that. I'm not going to touch too much on the actual system itself. This thing is rocking a Ryzen 7 3700X, and the motherboard of choice that they went with was the MSI B450 Bazooka, which is a really decent B450 motherboard, and it also has some good cooling on the VRM, which is very important for 3000 series, considering it's going to be a processor that could pull more power from the socket and end up making the VRMs work a little bit harder. And another thing to consider is the fact that this motherboard is rocking a beta BIOS. So the BIOS revision that was on this motherboard is from the middle of June. I don't expect MSI to release a full driver until the actual NDA releases and everyone can actually update their motherboards. So as the time of recording this video, consider that I'm using a beta BIOS for the 3000 series, and this could be the reason why I experienced some of the issues that I'm going to talk about right now. Now, the simple rule of thumb is the higher you go with these Ryzen 3000 series processors, the better the motherboard you should go with. Just because these motherboards like B350, X370, and such are supported for the higher end CPUs, there's a very good chance that the VRM and cooling and just the overall build quality of the motherboard just can't handle the high-end processors. But in this case, with this B450 motherboard, it actually performed pretty well with a few caveats. Diving into the BIOS, you could actually access some things like overclocking and XMP support. Speaking of that XMP support, the XMP profile worked perfectly out of the box. There was a profile on board that boosted the RAM to its rated 3600 MHz, which that RAM is actually G.Skill Trident Z memory with a cache latency of 16. So this is some pretty good stuff, and Ryzen 3000 series, as always, is going to benefit for some really fast memory and also memory with some pretty tight timings. And that cache latency of 16 is kind of the best you can get right now. Now, there were a few concerns that jumped out at me when I first booted into Windows, ran an IDA64 stress test to see what kind of temperatures I got on the system using the Wraith Max cooler. Now, the Wraith Max cooler is nothing special. It's basically a beefy stock cooler, but it was reaching upwards of 75, 80 degrees Celsius under load, and that seemed a little bit off for me. And after checking things like CPU-Z to see what kind of clock speed and core voltage this thing was pushing, the motherboard by default on auto settings had this processor running at 1.4 volts. That is a very high level of voltage just to be running this thing at stock clocks. So what I did was go back into the BIOS, drop the thing down to about 1.3. I didn't want to go much further down than that because I really didn't know the limits of the system and how it can run on lower voltage. But at 1.3, it ran perfectly fine, and the temperatures actually dropped like 10 degrees just by doing that alone. So that is a big concern to check out for if you're running a beta BIOS on an MSI board or any B450 or anything basically less than an X570 board. Take a look at the core voltage. For some reason, this thing was pumping a ton of voltage to the processor. Not sure if people have heard about that before, but it's a big concern because you don't want to fry your chip because of auto settings on a motherboard. Now, in terms of overclocking, I'm going to be honest with you. I took as much time as I had to get this video released out on Monday, and I'll probably dive into it a little bit more, but I was not able to get a solid overclock on this thing. I don't know if it's just the beta version of the BIOS, but if I try to push this thing above 4.4 gigahertz, the motherboard just rejects it and throws me right back into the BIOS, which kind of concerns me a little bit about overclocking support on this thing. But honestly, with the way the Ryzen 7 3700X boosts automatically from 3.6 all the way up to about 4.3 under full load, I was expecting a really good performing chip out of this, even if you weren't planning on overclocking, which is mainly the thing that I recommend if you are going with an older motherboard like this. It might be better just to run it at stock clocks because it's going to be a massive upgrade as is just because of the IPC boost already on board. And also pointing back to an earlier point, you don't want to stress this thing too much because you really don't know what these motherboards are going to do. I didn't end up testing a ton of games in this. I actually only ended up testing 2 games, PUBG and CSGO, because this system right now is rocking a 1063 gig. This whole PC comes in at $1,000 from Computer Upgrade King, and it's designed to be a streaming slash editing slash gaming PC. So at $1,000, you're probably looking at this being like a secondary streaming PC with a 1060 because you can fully take advantage of those 8 cores and 16 threads at $1,000. Of course, at 8 cores and 16 threads, it can do a ton of video editing, and through the Cinebench run that I did with Cinebench R20, you could see that we had a multi-core score of 4709 and a single core score of 490. That single core score is what makes Ryzen 3000 series so impressive. Ryzen has always been really good in terms of multi-core performance for your dollar, but the improvements they made on single core performance make this a really capable gaming chip. Now, if you are going with this kind of system from Computer Upgrade King and you want to make this a capable gaming PC to where it's not super GPU bound, I would definitely take a look at upgrading the system using a 2060 or 2070 from their configurator. This system right now, as I mentioned, comes in at around $1,000, and with the configurator, you are easily able to get a 2060 or 2070 and up that price up a little bit. 2060 and 2070s are actually getting discounted a lot because of the release of the 2060 Super and 2070 Super, and the fact that those cards are going to be discontinued. So manufacturers like Computer Upgrade King are passing that savings along to the consumer when they're getting a discount on buying them because they're just trying to clear inventory of them. And you can actually save a ton of money on a 2060 and 2070 and get a really capable system and make this pre-built system an even better option. Now, of course, here at the Toasty Bros, we love building budget PCs, and we do plan on doing more testing around Ryzen 3000 series, more specifically with the Ryzen 5 3600, which is going to be the best bang for the buck processor. And I think an ideal build for the Ryzen 5 3600 would be with a 2060, and we do plan on doing that here on the channel very shortly. But overall, with this video, I just wanted to get the point across that you can run a Ryzen 7 3700X on a B450 motherboard, but you do have to be careful with a couple things like voltage and RAM support. If you get good RAM in this thing, the XMP profile should work perfectly fine, but that auto voltage is something that I would be a little bit concerned about if you're upgrading your current motherboard with a Ryzen 7 CPU. So thanks again, guys, for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do have any feedback on this video or our testing methodology, please comment down below. We will have a ton of Ryzen 3000 series videos coming out on the channel, as I mentioned before. Special thanks again to Computer Upgrade King, and hopefully you all found this informational if you're considering upgrading your B450 motherboard with a Ryzen 7 3700X CPU. Thank you guys again for watching today's video, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Peace.